There we are. We're rolling.
So is it do we
It
have an
is.
audience?
We have, yes, we've got
Yeah.
13.
Oh,
13
okay.
so far.
Oh, got it. Okay, I'm seeing it. Okay, perfect. Well, to the 16 attendees we have so far, and it's growing, that's good. Welcome. This is Weber State Alumni Day on Capitol Hill, but virtually. So we're all in our respective places right now, but we're still excited to have you with us. We are waiting on a few panelists on the Hill, on Utah's Capitol Hill. But in the meantime, we're honored to have President Brad Mortensen, president of Weber State University, with us. So thank you, President Mortensen, for being here.
Yeah. Thanks, Devin.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our virtual Weber State Day at the Capitol. Appreciate everyone accommodating a different approach. But just to begin, some of you may or may not met. I don't know, Devin, have you had a chance to meet our Emeriti Alumni Council group and others?
I have not.
So I'm gonna introduce you and then
Okay.
let you introduce yourself for a minute first.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, but Devin Wiser is new to Weber State. He just joined us in October.
November. Yeah.
November, as the executive director of the Ole S. Walker Institute and government relations. So he's handling responsibilities at the Capitol as our legislative liaison and doing a great job for us. Devin previously worked in Congressman Bishop's office as his chief of staff. And then, fortunately for us, he was looking for a new job as Congressman Bishop came to an end of his tenure back at the Capitol. And we're very fortunate to have Devin join us at Weber State. So Devin, do you want to, I went on, but anything else about yourself you want to add with?
Yeah, I mean, you covered the main highlights, but yeah, I'm born and raised in Cache Valley, so just over the hill from Weber State, and then spent the last 10 years in Washington, D.C., working in Congress in various positions. And as President Mortensen noted, the last 4.5 or so years as chief of staff to Congressman Rob Bishop. But I am so happy to be back in Utah and to be working for Weber State. It's been a great start so far, and I'm excited about the future. So.
And I think Devin will be, he a great resource, certainly at Capitol Hill, and knows the people and the processes very well, and has proven that already as we're in this is week 3, I guess, of the session for this year. But Devin's role with the Walker Institute is also something that might be of interest to, it looks like most of our group is Emeriti Alumni Council. There's a few more, but with Walker Institute, it's structured a little bit differently than it was before when Bob Hunter was the director there. And so Devin is also teamed up with Dr. Leah Murray, who's our academic director. And between the two of them, through election season and all of the atypical fallout from election season and trying to determine what happened during the elections, Devin and Leah both were out in the news quite a bit, commenting and sharing perspectives on that. They've organized several virtual forums that are easy for folks to participate in with elections officials and others. And so there's a lot of good programming coming out from the Walker Institute with Devin and Leah's leadership there. So I was going to kind of share a little bit more about what we've been doing for Weber State down at the Capitol, but I see Representative Kelly Miles has joined us, and I know how valuable his time is. So Representative Miles, I'll introduce you quickly and then turn it over to you if that's okay.
Sure.
Devin was saying earlier, just before we opened up the room to let all of our attendees in, that about what you did on the floor this morning at the floor of the House, Representative Miles, to recognize Weber State, just like we do on the days when we are able to be there with you at the Capitol. But really appreciate you doing that great representative of Weber State as an alumnus and involved in student government while he's here, and continues to be just a strong supporter of the university and our whole community from his seat, House District 11, is that correct? With South Ogden and kind of the southern part of Weber County, a little bit of Davis County too, and has a great Weber State intern working for him this session. So
there's Patty right there.
But Representative Miles is also serving, he got a new leadership role at the legislature as the chair of the House Chair of the Higher Education Appropriations Subcommittee. So he was important before to Weber State before, but he's super important now, and really appreciate having a friend in that position, that where all of our operating budget money flows through that committee. So that's a very important spot for us. But with that, I'll turn it over to you, Representative Miles, to share with folks how you see things shaping up down at the Capitol related to Weber State and higher education, or just generally and otherwise. I'm sure that would be of interest too.
Okay, thanks, President. I appreciate that. Let me start off with saying, please never change the name of Weber State University, because if you do, I'm not going to sponsor that bill. For those of you online, by virtue of my role as chair of the higher education, it kind of fell to me to sponsor the name change for Dixie State University. And my email box has been exploding, and phone calls and such. And I think if you look at it just on, or not just, but for the benefit of the university there and the students, it's probably a good move, and that's why I agreed to sponsor it. But anyway, let's keep Weber State. How's that sound, President?
That's I remember President Milner saying things like this occasionally, but if that changes, that'll have to be the next president. I'm not going to do that one. There's no reason to here.
Sounds good. Thanks for sharing Devin with us this morning. It was nice to have him down at the Capitol and up in the gallery. He helped host my wife. My wife, Linda, is here with me. Now, just so you're aware, I tease Linda. She's actually a Utah State Aggie. She got her degree from Utah State, but when we first got married, she had 21 hours left for her to graduate in education. And they Utah State let her do those 21 hours at Weber State. So I tell her she actually had to come to Weber before she could get her degree. So she's got a little bit of purple blood in her, and you can see she's in her purple too, President. So we're slowly winning her over. But again, thank you, and thanks for Devin being here. Appreciate him. Got a chance to introduce him to the floor. I don't know if he told you, but I told him that he must be superhuman, because he took over the role of Bob Hunter and Chris Millard, and both of those did phenomenal jobs and were constantly busy. So you've got your task ahead of you, Devin, and a crazy year to start that out. But to all the great alumni that are on listening to this, it's great to be a Wildcat. I can tell you that Weber State's reputation down here is phenomenal. The footprint that Weber State brings to the Capitol, and just the involvement. I mean, as simple as bringing us Waldo ice cream, you know, and thank you to FARS for continuing to make that. It's easy to get everyone's attention when you hold up a thing of ice cream. And by the way, to make everybody jealous, here's my second one here. So, so thank you for your footprint here. And, you know, higher education, I think, is doing well. I think the president could probably share even more so, but combining the higher education institutions, the technical colleges and the academic universities, I think has been a great move, and it's been well supported by the legislature. in our higher education appropriations. We're giving equal time to both. And again, Weber State leads the charge in working with our two local technical colleges, Davis Tech and Ogden Weber Tech colleges. The two presidents there and President Mortensen are just doing a phenomenal job, you know, working together and making sure our students are getting their certificates, and if they want to move on and get a degree, then it's a seamless transition. So that's been wonderful too. As far as some of the general issues we're dealing with down here, of course, one of them is COVID-19, you know, and trying to adapt to that. You probably saw on the budget releases that the state actually fared very well this year. We've got a remarkable amount of one-time money to distribute. What happened is we were worried, and so last year we cut everyone's. We had budgeted everybody money, and then when COVID hit, we kind of froze that money, and then in fact our economy continued to do well, and our tax coffers continued to bring in tax. Of course, I think a lot of that was because of the federal money that was infused into the state, but because of that, there's quite a bit of one-time money available, and so all our appropriation committees are getting hit with requests. Weber's right in line asking for some very good projects. There's a really big demand right now for engineers. And so there's been an emphasis with what's going on with Northrop Grumman there at on the Hillfield campus and that. So I appreciate Weber's leadership on that. So there's the budget issues. We're still trying to sort out kind of a separation of powers issues. None of that's really hit the legislative floors yet, but there's concerns that maybe there was some overreaching on the part of the governor's office or on the part of the health departments. And so there's legislation in the works to kind of delineate that and make sure that we have our three separate branches of government, you know, that we're acting independently and that there's that protection. So you're going to see some legislation in that arena. There's a big push right now on mental health and trying to meet the needs of mental health in the state of Utah. That's a really important catchphrase. You'll see a resolution released that I'm actually sponsoring that's actually been put together by our own Weber Human Services that indicates the need to provide outcome-based therapy and outcome-based treatments, and that the legislature is interested in requiring not only that we treat mental health issues, but that we treat them and help people get better. So I think you'll see that the legislature this year is looking at kind of making a shift from treating just as many as we can to making sure that those we treat are actually getting better. And so maybe not so much quantity, maybe not as much of an emphasis on quantity as it is on quality of treatment. But I could go on all day, President, as to what's going on down here, and I'm sure you don't want to hear that because there's other more interested people to hear from. So I see Senator Milner's on board, and I know she's got some wonderful things working on. But thanks again for inviting our good alumni, and thanks again for your leadership from Weber and Davis County, President.
Oh, no, thank you very much, Representative Miles. Appreciate you giving that overview for folks. And again, for your all of your hard work, you know, chairing the Higher Education Appropriations Committee is one thing, but then some of the extra tasks that come with us. And that bill is up in committee this afternoon, correct? So
it is. Yeah, 3:40 if you want to see some fireworks.
Yeah. Linda, you may want to keep your distance. But we've had two other great legislators join to share a little bit with our panel today. Both of the majority whips coincidentally kind of came on almost at the same time. You two have things really coordinated well. So
I defer to Representative Schultz. He's the senior majority whip.
So, of course, Senator Milner doesn't need an introduction to this group. We know her well. And Representative Mike Schultz is a great friend to Weber State, and really pleased that he would take some time to be with us. Resident of Weber County and represents, are you District 12? Is that right?
Yep, House District 12, yeah. Western Weber County, Western Davis County, and there are portions of Western Davis County, and most of Roy and all of Hooper, and yeah.
And Representative Schultz is just really in that leadership position there, is just a valuable member of that team, and always just looking out for Weber State when it comes to the budget process and when the legislation's being passed and other things. So appreciate him joining us. And Representative Schultz, if you want to share a few insights for the session as you see it, big issues related to Weber State or Northern Utah for our alumni group that are here with us.
Oh, thank you, President. I appreciate it. And I just want to say the reason we're going to let me go first and Senator Milner go after, so Senator Milner can correct everything I said and you can get accurate, more accurate information. So that's the way it worked all last year anyway. So I'm sure it'd be the same this year. So President, I just want to say thank you to Weber State and all that you guys do for our community. You guys are doing a fantastic job. This is my 7th session, and since you've taken over the helm of Weber State and started to run it, I've seen a noticeable difference in your presence on the Hill just in the last couple of years. And so I think you and your team is doing a fantastic job. So thank you. That's a great question of what's going on at the legislature this year. It's a really, really, really interesting year, just as the whole world that we're living in today because of COVID. We're dealing with a lot of COVID related issues. And, I think maybe I want to talk about some of the positives in Utah that we're seeing in regards to the rest of the nation and the world. Certainly we have had our issues and it has not been perfect, and it's been a learning curve with all governments, state government, certainly the federal government and local governments as well. But I think we're so lucky, honestly, to live in Utah. And when you look at how well our state is ran, just a couple of things that I want to point out. You look at the alumni that's on this call. I'm sure you know where Utah is in regards to tuition, in regards to the rest of the nation, and especially Weber State. Weber State's tuition is one of the most affordable in the state. And not only is it affordable, but the value you're getting, the education that you are getting is just fantastic. And that goes back to great presidents in the past, like Senator Milner, great leadership, at the state level and all the way across. And so that hasn't changed. And let's take it into, public education also right now. Utah was the only state in the nation last year to actually increase public education spending. And then we have actually passed the bill now for this year, the largest single increase in education spending in the state's history, over $400 million. And to do that in a time when most of the other nation or the rest of the nation is making cuts to education, cuts to higher ed because of COVID related issues is really unbelievable. Representative Miles mentioned that we do have a lot of one-time money right now. We had a lot of money altogether coming into this ongoing money, but we took the majority of that money and put it towards education. And so I think that says where the state legislature's priorities are this year. in already fully funding education at a record amount. And so when you have states like California, cutting budgets, you have states like Hawaii cutting budgets and actually furloughing teachers right now to balance their budgets. We're really lucky to be in Utah and to have such a great economy and to have things going. So those are some of the positive things that I wanted to hit on as we're going through this pandemic. That Utah's in a great spot and going forward and actually making a lot of progress towards some of our highest needs. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think Senator Milner can follow up on a lot of the things that I said and give some better insight as well.
No, thanks very much, Representative Schultz. Appreciate your positive perspective and all the hard work that you do, because I know that it just doesn't happen without a lot of work and effort to get some of those outcomes that you're talking about. So thank you very much. Senator Milner, what would you like to share with this group today? And in addition to introducing your great Weber State intern.
He's right here. So this is Brody Bailey. It's my great Weber State intern, as President Mortensen said. So some of you may not know, but even though he's President Mortensen, he still gets a text from me every year about September timeframe that says, have you decided who my great intern is going to be for this year? And so I haven't released him from that responsibility, and he always lives up to getting me a great intern. So all of you need to know that. So I just want to add on something. Representative Schultz is being very modest. He and I worked on some really important legislation last year. And what I really want to say about this is he has been a great partner, coming together to try to say, how do we support education in our state? At the same time, we make sure we're able to meet the broader needs of the state, and kind of being absolutely doggedly determined. I think that's a nice way to say that, right, Representative Schultz?
Pretty much a butt head is what I heard, but yeah.
That's not what you were supposed to hear. To find solution. And I really appreciate working with him because he's solution focused. He is all about working with people and trying to we work together, trying to bring all the education stakeholders, find a solution that people could support. And the result of that has been that Amendment G did pass, which provides some flexibility to the legislature in terms of funding and being able to make sure we could also address broader needs of our children in the state and people with disabilities. But at the same time, making public education funding a priority in the state, that we would fund kind of basic foundational funding every year in the base budget. So it's not just a one-time kind of effort here to put $400 million into public education, but it's really to build something that's historic in terms of the opportunity for public education funding to grow consistently over time. We now have a funding framework. We have always had a constitutional amendment that kind of tagged a revenue source, but we didn't have a funding framework in terms of making sure we were able to prioritize public ed funding. And and it takes a team of people working together, and he has been a great leader and team member on this. So I want to thank him in front of all of you, because you need to know that. Do you want rebuttal time, Representative Schultz?
Well, I'll just say this, Senator Milner was the brains behind how it all came together. So she's being really nice, but thank you. She's the one that truly made it happen, bring everybody together. And it truly was historic in what happened, in the fact that together we were able to bring all of the education stakeholders together, every stakeholder group involved, together to pass Amendment G, and it truly will have great benefits to our education and education community going forward.
So I know that all of you are here because you care about Weber State and higher education and how important that is. And actually, one of the things that happened in the base budget this year that I don't think I've ever seen happen, certainly not since I've been down here, is we passed a salary increase for higher education in the base budget. And that's pretty historic as well, right, Representative Schultz?
Yeah, it's never happened before, and also a huge bonus to the teachers as well, to public education teachers. Yeah.
So one of the things that I think it's important to know that we are still working on higher education. One of the cuts that was made as part of this kind of pandemic response and our having to respond to a decrease in revenues at the time is we put in a framework for capital facilities. And that framework would allow us to, instead of doing buildings in the way we do them today, which has some where everybody kind of goes through a process with the State Board of Higher Education and then through the building board and to the legislature, and everybody's kind of pitching their building, and there's kind of some interesting things that happen in that process, and that, you know, you only get one chance on it. You got to go big. You got to make sure you're getting everything you're going to need for a while. It's as opposed to being able to think about what might strategically be some smaller projects, some ways to add wings on a building or to do remodel or something, and really use our resources more effectively and more efficiently. That's part of what helped us get through our pandemic recession. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to restore that. It's supported by the institutions. It is a big and huge lift that we may have to work on over more than 1 year, but I think it's really important that we put that in place so we use our money more efficiently and more effectively in the future. I love, Senator Hinkins gave me this great analogy. He said, it's kind of like if your daughter is getting married and you say to them, I'll pay for the wedding, that's a really big wedding. If you say, I'm going to give you $10,000, you spend it however you want, said, you know, it's amazing, and it's yours to keep, whatever you know is left. He said, it's amazing how decisions change. And I think that's really what we're trying to do, is say, here's some money, you're responsible for it, you use it in the most effective way, and we can really be somewhat transformative in our processes through that. So there's not legislation, but it will be kind of working towards getting that funded. We almost had it there, and it was a phased in funding. Now we're kind of, I feel like we're starting over, but we'll stay at it. Second area is really performance funding. As you know, that the last year we passed legislation that brought our two systems, both our degree granting institutions and our tech colleges, under one umbrella. And one of the things that we asked this new board to do was to set strategic goals for the future. And they have been working on setting kind of decade goals in terms of attainment. And we want to align our institutions to align with those goals and to incentivize their setting goals that help us achieve that then making sure our performance funding model aligns with that. So you'll see a modification discussed during the session that allows us to align this with the state's statewide goals, which I think is extremely important that we do that and allow our institutions then as they set their goals, we want them to be stretch goals, but if they achieve them, they get full performance funding, and they're able then to continue to reinvest in those things that are going to help them support our student and student attainment. A third area that is still a passion of mine, I think many of you know, is economic development. And we are working on some legislation. Representative Hawks will be carrying that in the House, that is going to focus on thinking about developing a state strategy for economic development for the future. We've always kind of thought about it as GOED's work, but it really requires lots of partners across the state to engage in this. So you can't do economic development without thinking about infrastructure, and you can't do it without developing the talent pool. So the employers have the people they need to be able for the jobs. You can't do it without thinking about kind of some related incentives. We need to put a real focus on rural. We can be much more strategic along the Wasatch Front, but our rural communities need us to really focus on how do we support them based on whatever their community assets are, and it's different out in Uinta than it is out in other parts of the state. The needs of northern Utah are different than some of the other parts of the state. We look at the impact of the big contracts that we're getting on missile defense when Northrop Grumman's incredible growth. I think I heard yesterday they're expecting 4,000 additional employees. Those are really high skill jobs. We have to make sure we're able to build their talent pipeline so they're able to succeed in that. And then they say, Utah is the best place to go. And I think in addition to that, with that, really focused on maybe there's going to be some infrastructure that we need to put in place. So as we think strategically about economic development, we have to think about what are the other elements that really help support that. And I think you'll see some legislation related to that. And then maybe a third area and I just see higher education have an incredible and important role in that. And I'm going to work on trying to get my emerging technology talent development bill funded again after we had to cut the funding last year, to make sure we can stay out on the edge of developing that more advanced talent that we're going to need in the state to drive kind of the emerging technology industries that we have in the state. And maybe I should stop there. It's easy to get on a roll here, but you probably have questions, and we want to open that up to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Senator Milner. And thank you also for introducing, recognizing, I should say, maybe Weber State alumni from the Senate floor this morning. And I trust the ice cream got passed around there and folks are happy. So
Folks are very happy. In fact, I have to share this with you. So it doesn't hurt that the executive appropriations chair from the Senate, Senator Stevenson, said he'd already eaten one. And he said, I think I'll just go get a second one and I'll call that lunch today. So just in case you want to know if Weber State ice cream is important, it is.
Oh, well, that's great. Thanks.
But I do have to go buy some Weber State ties. I don't know if I don't know who heard the fact that nobody from Weber or Davis had on purple ties today. So I promised them on the floor of the Senate that I would supply those.
And Senator Milner did do a great job of giving credit to those who were wearing purple ties. They just didn't happen to be from our area.
They happen to be from Cedar City and Logan.
Well, we can work on that. So we know
well,
they bleed.
actually, Brody, I've already given Brody the assignment to find me ties. He's going to do that. And
Okay.
my hope is to deliver them next week.
One of the many intern duties that you're learning, right, Brody? So
very important.
Yeah, there are important things to do down here.
So really, Jessica.
I just want to know, Representative Schultz, what color tie do you have on?
Senator Milner, I have a purple, it's purple and black, but I have a purple shirt on and a purple suit. It's got purple lines all through my suit. So yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Today, yeah.
You went all in.
You did go all in.
when Representative Miles had his camera on, he had some good purple on too.
You
was
did. I already checked that out.
As
I
did
will
his wife.
probably never lose that part of my Weber stateness, right?
Well, I do think it was you as president who kind of claimed purple at the Capitol, that whenever anybody at the Capitol sees purple, it gets associated with Weber State now. So
That's what we want.
yep. The folks in the group can hit the Q&A button and raise any questions or submit any questions for Representative Schultz and Senator Mulder. And I'm not sure if Representative Miles is still with us or not, but we appreciate Jessica providing our support to make sure Zoom works well for everybody today. Maybe while you all are doing that, I wanted to just show one slide that I think is pretty cool and represents, if you could sum up what's most important about Weber State in one slide, I think this is it. And I shared this with the Higher Education Appropriations Subcommittee with Representative Miles' committee yesterday. And this is a ranking that just came out from a group, the affordableschools.net. You may have never been to their website, but they're a reputable group. They do a very valid study of over 2,000 four-year degree granting schools in the country, public and private, and they rank them all based on how affordable they are, and then what the outcomes are for students. And they judge that based on the salary that our graduates earn, both when they come out of school, and then when they're 10 years out of school, and then when they're mid-career. So it's a pretty exhaustive look, and it really sums up what Representative Schultz just said. Weber State ranks 19th out of that group of 2,000 schools. We're the only public school in Utah that made the top 50 list. We're the only open enrollment school that takes, all students regardless of their academic preparation, that's on the top 50 of that list. So I think that's something that we should all be very proud of in our Weber State family, just to get this kind of external recognition. And there's a billboard on Beck Street that talks about being one of the most affordable schools with the best outcomes in the state, but it doesn't have the number 19 on it yet. And we're going to get some billboards that say that out there too. So
President Mortensen, I didn't know about this ranking when I made my comments, but it's clear when we're out talking with, employers across the state that are certainly here in Utah, but are also having a huge national presence, that they think very highly of Weber State. So that to actually see that with that ranking is pretty cool. Congratulations.
No, thanks. And it's certainly not, it's just really deep in our DNA of how we work at the university. You hear conversations like in the faculty senate meeting that support affordability and these positive outcomes in a way that I just think doesn't happen every place, and I'm really appreciative of that. It's also possible because of the great community support we have. So it takes a lot of folks, but it's great to get the recognition too.
So just an idea, next year, if this holds, we're allowing like a slide if you want to go up on the screen. Next year when we do the recognition in the Senate.
When we're number 10.
I'd love to have it.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll have to do a little pre-planning, but
right.
It would be great. So congratulations, great work.
Thank you. It's really something that we can all be proud of, I think. Are there any questions out there from
President Mortensen? We have some questions that came in earlier that I have that we can start addressing. Yeah, feel free to leave it in the Q&A, people that are watching as well. But to start off, the first question is about the COVID factor. They want to know how it's changed your experience on Capitol Hill, if there are any silver linings to that, and also how, given all these changes, how best people can be involved, because there's still three and a half or so weeks left in the session, so people can still get involved. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, so I would say, we're only like 1/3 way through. This is day 16, and we go to day 45, so there's plenty of time to still be involved. We actually had this question from the press as well. What's the experience like? What I would say is I feel like Everybody that wants an appointment gets an appointment. There are a few people that show up in person. Other people set up Zooms, and both ways work, and I think are equally effective. We probably see more text, probably emails about the same. People who tend to use email are still using email. But I feel in our committee rooms, we have the capability for everybody who wants to provide public comment on a bill. Whether they're in person or they're on virtually, they can do that. And in some ways that expands people's access to what's going on here. We've never had video in committee rooms before. You've never been able to come in a virtual framework. So if you think about, somebody that wants to testify at a committee, they get 3 minutes, they might have to travel, they have to park, they have to wait. Now they can just join online, and it really becomes very accessible to them to be able to provide public feedback or to watch what's going on and feel like they can stay engaged and involved. And if you've not had a chance to do that, I suggest that you think about doing that. If you didn't get a chance to see President Mortensen's presentation, you can go back and do that. As well as others. But I think there's lots of opportunity here. And I feel like it's different, but we also in some ways are expanding access because of the virtual nature and the fact that we have all learned the skills to be able to do that.
And I'll just add to Senator Milner's comments, certainly with all the technology and Zoom and everything being across the web now, and being able to participate from your couches if you so choose. But the Capitol building is also open. All of the House committees, Senate committees are open now. Some of the availability, might be limited in those rooms. But I just have to say, the Capitol, it's really a weird and eerie feeling up here at the Capitol because it's dead. There's hardly anybody that up at the Capitol right now. And so I think it's a great opportunity. If you feel comfortable, put your masks on, come up and participate. We get tested twice a week at the Capitol. But go get tested and come up and participate. It's a great time. There's not the large crowds that are normally around. And so I think that you'll find that it's an enjoyable experience right now without having so many people around. And we'd love to see you come up. So hopefully you can.
Both bodies had a little bit of early COVID experience, but at least I know in the Senate, it's been a week and a half with that. We've have not had any positive tests. And so I think it's, we are in a different place in terms of being really careful and, but at the same time, trying to be accessible.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Another question that had come in earlier: has the change in the governor's office dramatically affected how you're doing business or how you're working with the governor?
You want to go first, Representative Miles, or Representative Schultz? I'm sorry.
Yeah, is Representative Miles on? Maybe he.
No, I don't see him on there. So that's why I realized he's not on there, but we hadn't been giving him the opportunity. So and he must have dropped off.
No, I will say that we have experienced some change, and I would like to give credit to our good governor. I think that he is trying to be more collaborative in the approach that he's taken with the legislature, and work in a more collaborative way than Governor Herbert did. And I think that there's some goods and bads with that, but we certainly appreciate the more collaborative approach. I will say this also, that he tends to have a few more opinions than Governor Herbert did. And so that's going to be interesting for us as we try to balance that. So we're excited to have Governor Cox there and work with him. We do appreciate his willingness to engage as early in the process as he has. And so we look forward to it.
I will say he is more engaged, I think, and really making sure that we're all really clear about people we can work with from his administrative team. And, he even appointed a kind of a legislative liaison that wasn't kind of an attorney, which I think he is trying to make sure, while we may not always agree, that we have conduits for having discussions.
Thank you. That's great. It's good to hear that perspective. We did have a question come in live. It says, with a growing economy, our transportation needs are also growing. I recently heard that legislation is now proposed to add an additional tax for electric and hybrid vehicles to help with these needs. What is happening with that legislation? Any thoughts on that?
Representative Schultz, I think that's in the House.
Yeah, that's in the House. So I actually ran the bill, maybe 4 years ago now, 3-4 years ago, that actually increased the fees on electric vehicles. At the time, we looked at it, and we know that our gas tax is going to be going away, and is a declining revenue source for the state. And it's very worrisome to many of us that look at the transportation funding, and especially the transportation needs across our state. And so as we looked at, where do we go from here? We have, GM that just came out and said, we're not, I think it's 2035 was the year that they said that they're no longer going to produce vehicles that run off gasoline. And I think that's great for our certainly our air quality in the state. I mean, 50-60% of our air quality problems come from the tailpipes of our vehicles. So that is the great part of it. The unfortunate part is, how do we pay for our roads at that point in time? Because that's the majority of our roads get paid for by the gas tax. And so you have the needs increasing and the revenue decreasing. And so, how do we, do we look at vehicle miles traveled? Do we look at registration fees? Do we look at toll roads? How do we justify, or how do we pay for our roads going into the future? And, one of the arguments against, when we raised that EV fee a couple of years ago, was that people would not buy EVs, electric vehicles. And that just turned out to be not true. In fact, just the opposite. We have seen a dramatic increase in the purchase of vehicles. It's still a very economical way. Certainly those vehicles are a little more expensive, but once you own them, they're very economical to own. And so the idea there was to get them to start paying a portion of that. Now, as you look at, a portion of the roads that they use and help fund our transportation going forward. As you look at the graphs that show how much those vehicles contribute to the roads, and paying for those roads versus what someone a regular gasoline vehicle contributes, it is still significantly less. And so as we look at going into the future to where they're not going to, electric vehicles are going to continue to grow, it is becoming more and more concerning that we're not going to have enough money. We don't have enough money today to meet the needs, to be honest with you, of our transportation system. And so, it makes us nervous compounding that. And so there has been a bill that passed out of the House committee that would give another slight increase to the electric vehicle fees. That's certainly really, really important, because we can't take money. We don't want to take money out of education and other things to pay for our roads. Really, the users of the roads need to pay for that. And as electric vehicles become more and more common, certainly they need to pay their fair share. So, and we need to strike a balance too, because we certainly don't want to slow down the purchases of those vehicles, because they do so much for our airshed and the air quality across the state, mainly in the Wasatch Front.
Great answer. Oh, Senator Milner.
No, it's okay. We can, let's go to the next question.
Okay, yeah, another one that came in earlier. They say fiscally, my understanding is that Utah is in a strong spot. How did that happen in the midst of the pandemic? And what should happen with those surplus funds? You sort of touched on that, both of you, in your initial remarks, but maybe just elaborate a little bit.
So it's the fact that we are fiscally conservative and we put money back in rainy day funds, and sometimes we have some one-time rainy day funds, but we have some ongoing rainy day funds. And the fact that we had done in good times, we had done a lot of making sure we were preparing for what we all know at some point in time we will have an economic downturn. The question is sometimes what precipitates it, but we're going to have it. So I think we prepare well for those times. So it was the combination of preparation and then the willingness. I mean, if you think about it, literally, we finished the session, things started closing down. A month later, we were back in session saying, we need to address these shortfalls that we have and that are coming because of the pandemic. And in the next month or so, we were starting to make the changes. That quick response time, I think, really helped us. Combine that with, we really worked hard to get our businesses back open in a safe way. So we could continue to drive the economy and make sure we were protecting people's livelihoods, that they were able to, in a very safe way, go back to work. Businesses were able to, particularly our small businesses, were able to sustain the work that they were doing. And that's been, it's that combination of carefulness and planning that's made the difference. What we have right now is because of that, actually, and we believe that a lot of it's because of the federal stimulus package and the fact that we've had a couple stimulus packages and now have a third one, that the difference that's made has really created some budget surplus on the one-time side. We have on the ongoing side, we had enough to be able to address many of our education issues, et cetera, but we have kind of limited funds on the ongoing side, but we have close to $1 billion of one-time money. And we believe that's because of that package, that stimulus package. I think we hope to do a couple things during the session. One is to think about, I mean, investing one-time funds in infrastructure makes sense. Those are truly one-time expenditures, and we want to make sure we can, and we've got some high priority needs, including some of those in northern Utah. When we think about Northrop Grumman's growth and the missile defense project and what's happening out in the Falcon Hill project, we've got some things we need to address there. We also know that we're going to continue to have highway needs and infrastructure needs up in the northern part of the state, as well as the entire state. But so I think it's a chance for us to focus on some of those investments that are important with one-time funds. But we had tucked back some money for a potential tax cut. We have not touched that, and we are all hoping that we can, if revenues hold strong, that we can do some things to give some targeted tax cuts to people in Utah. And right now, the three areas we're looking at are our senior citizens with Social Security and being able to allow them to keep more of their Social Security. Military retirees, we're one of few states in the nation now that totally tax military retirement. And we think that in terms of honoring not only their service, but for many of them, they have incredible skills that can help support our workforce needs in the state. And particularly in northern Utah, they have the ability to get the security clearances that are necessary for our companies. And then third area was based on the Trump tax cuts that were made 3 years ago. It had an impact on our dependent tax exemptions. And a real interest in being able to address that. So at the same time, we have lots of other needs in the state. We are now just early in the process of going through our sub-appropriations committees, looking at the agency needs, higher education needs, and additional public ed needs, as well as particular projects that are out there. And you'll see over the next couple of weeks them starting to develop those lists and then waiting for revenue numbers to see, do we still project that we will have the money going forward to allow us to make some future investments, but also to give some tax relief to Utahns.
I'd just like to add really quick to that. I think Senator Milner did a fantastic job explaining it and the reasons why and the fiscal conservativeness. And I just want to say the credit needs to be given to past legislatures that really put us in a good position to help to help with that. And I think when you look at what we've been describing this year in the middle of a pandemic, where most of the states in the nation are, can't meet their budgetary needs. We in Utah gave a record increase to education already. It's been done. And we're also talking about giving some of that back to the taxpayers through a tax cut. There isn't another state in the nation that's able to be able to say and have those types of conversations. And so I think the credit needs to be given to the past legislatures that put us in a great position to be able to do that. And then the obligation now falls on us with this current legislature to make sure that we continue that pathway forward and that we learn from the things that they did to help us. And I think Utah is very unique in the collaborative approach that we take with addressing public policy, bringing all sides in, trying to truly find the best needs for the citizens of the state. And that obligation now falls on us to make sure that we continue that forward. So
those are great answers. Thank you so much. And thank you both for taking the time to chat with our alumni and those of us involved at Weber State University. As we've seen in the last year or so, sort of a breakdown of civil dialogue when it comes to politics across the nation. It sort of sounds corny, but I do think we do it better in Utah. And this is a great example of that. And that's something we'll continue to focus on. President Mortensen mentioned it in his presentation yesterday, and we're going to continue to work on that with the Walker Institute as well. Just thank you both so much for taking this full hour of your day when I know there's many things going on right now you could be working on, but thank you. I'll let President Mortensen also express his gratitude.
No, I think you've both exemplified why we're in such a great position as a state to have such good leadership there between you and your colleagues, both of you, both in House leadership and Senate leadership, and then the other delegation from Northern Utah. The rest of the delegation is really strong and just represents none of the things that make the news about governance and leadership and politics, because it's just focused on good decision making. So we appreciate that. And I did want to just say quickly that I do not have a purple tie on today, but it's because this afternoon, and I could take it off for this, right? But I use it as an excuse. This afternoon, we're doing the ribbon cutting, and it will be Facebook live streamed. If any of you alumni want to watch at 4 o'clock on the Weber State Facebook page. And it's for the new Outdoor and Adventure Center. And as part of that, they asked me if I would rappel down like about 55 feet with 3 other people, and then we're going to cut the ribbons. So that's why I didn't wear a tie today. I do have a purple shirt on. So
I need to buy you a tie as well. Is that what you're saying?
I have 17 purple ties. So
oh, then I just need to raid your closet.
Yeah, you could take care of all the senators.
Could you ask Camille to send me several of those? I can use them right now.
Will do.
I'm only teasing. I want to say thank you. First of all, to the alumni that are on this call. The fact that you are willing to join with us and join with the university and represent the institution to the community, to the legislature, That is so meaningful for the institution, for the students and the faculty and the staff that are still there right now. I know to the administrators that are there, having your participation, your voice, having you be cheerleaders and advocates and advisors, incredibly important. And I just want to continue to thank you all very much for that. And then Brad and Devin, thank you. Great leadership. We, you know, at the end of the day, it's about the leadership of the institution. So important, and you're doing a terrific job. And let us know how we help and support you.
Thank you, guys. I echo Senator Milner's comments, and I just appreciate you asking me to participate in this. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day.
Great. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you all.